violating the sanctity of death. The martyrs in the burial grounds, Muslims and Christians together. That very act, Samer wants to actually violate that conventional way of their sacredness for the sake of a much higher level of sacredness that brings them up to the ascension, to the level of the cloud in the crystal edelweiss, as he calls it. And that's actually a violation of a certain norm for the sake of a higher level of sacredness. So it's not an absolute violation of sacredness per se, but it's a substitution of the old notion of martyrdom for the sake of a higher level in the crystal edelweiss. And that's essential at the central core of his scheme. That's what makes it actually quite unusual in his perception of the notion of martyrdom. Another point which I think is very critical, the act of his this mechanical scavenging of the dead in the burial ground. It's a mechanical, actually. The scavenging is very mechanical because he actually bring them from this point in the burial ground to an ironic and iconic act of ascension to that cloud, but this mechanistic notion of it that takes them from the darkness below to the darkness of the soil where they are buried into the light in both senses, the light and lightness of the cloud above the crystal edelweiss, and that I think is also a fundamental. So Samer plays a very interesting twist. So he wants us to believe and at the same time not to believe or disbelieve in the act of sacredness, the ascension to the heavens, the trilobed extreme, as he calls it again, and the violation of sanctity of the martyrs, and it's a war of a nation that is at war with itself. So the very sanctity of the martyrs in a cause that was actually a violation of the notion of nationhood is absolutely negated for the sake of this other act. And that I think is, and that's what the scavenging the martyrs of an unjust war, that's my interpretation or my reading into the scheme. And his very sense of it's actually kind of it's hard to name it. Through this mechanistic act of scavenging, in one stroke, he elevates the nihilistic into the mystical. And that is the absurdity of war par excellence. And that's, I think, when the scheme reaches its zenith. This nihilism and mysticism in one single act, truly. Samer is not only satisfied with disturbing the martyrs, but he adds insult to injury by passing their corpse through cremation, which is a different kind of cremation for their Christian and Muslim belief system, or the fundamental tenets of those three Abrahamic traditions. He goes beyond irony. He aims to subvert. He actually aims to subvert the idea of death in those three traditions through the act of cremation. And that's yet another subversion, or he subverts actually not even just martyrdom in those three traditions in the burial ground, whether they are Muslims or Christians, but he actually makes their corpse pass through the incinerator, the cremation. that is very disturbing by any standards of those three traditions. So for instance, the funicular pods, were they actually taken up into the crystal Edelweiss. He raises the martyrs. He raises the martyrs' corpse from the ashes of war into the translucent heavenly crystal. The Samer's scheme is mechanistic and metaphysical, and also anachronistic and futuristic. Those are also the contradictory extremes that he actually plays with in his scheme. Another point which is worthy of mentioning is the notion of martyrs, as I actually read it, martyrs and mortars, where he actually brings the martyrs into, he mixes them with the mortars of cement, where they actually, their blood is still fresh, euphemistically, and in an unabashed attempt at hybridizing their flesh and mortar at the same time. And that's also the flesh of the very mortar that would cement them into their new eternal resting place. And that's also another unusual mix of concepts. That's again in conversations with Samer about the almost linguistic game playing about the martyrs and mortars, and the martyrs are mixed into the mortars of cement, where they're actually, after being cremated and incinerated, they become pulverized into the mix of mortars. And again, mortars in the sense of cement, and in the sense of the mortars that actually could have killed them in the very first place. And that's another notion. The scheme is clearly meant to disturb as much as to agitate and to challenge the very fundamentals of all sacred acts. Clearly, this is a subversive scheme in the first order, and that's what I appreciate tremendously about how he took this concept into uncharted territories. Death? What death? There's only depth. There is only depth.